Graham, good to see you again. A free week, if that makes sense, no game in the week. Has that been welcome for you as a team?
Well, the weekend and the games after that will give us the answer for that. But I think it's always valuable to get training time with the players. I think just to give you a bit of breathing space to assess the previous games properly, try and plan ahead with the game that we have in at the weekend, and try and get a few lads a little bit more up to speed, physically, because it's been a bit of a broken time for a few players. So I think on a physical side, a preparation side, a free week is always valuable, but it's about making it pay for us, really.
We talk a lot about the relentless fixture schedule at this time of the year, and partly with what you've said there, do you feel like as a squad you maybe just needed that chance to maybe reflect and look back?
A little bit, yeah, because we want, it's certainly coming out of January, where we know now that it's the squad is the squad that we have. Everyone can settle down and focus, so we look at the games coming up and what we have to do to win them. And then try and introduce to the new players, well, Cav really and Jake, more than Tyreek, because he's still with the medical team, that the sort of tactical stuff that we require from them in and out of possession. So for them boys, it's been probably more valuable. But yeah, I think as long as you can get out and train, which we've been able to do this week, then I think it probably did come at a good time, just after more about being out of the window and settling everyone down rather than any other aspect, to be honest. And
do you feel the squad is settling down? People are settling. They know this is it now. This is how we're going to be until the end of the season.
I would hope so. I think, there's no choice really. So that's it. We're the group that we have now is the group that will take us through to the end of the season. So. I always believe, and without a doubt, January brings its distractions. Not for every single individual, but if you've got enough, I think it will. It's a topic that people will discuss and focus on, even if it's not directly including them. They'll still be aware of things going on. So I think February onwards sort of puts that to bed. I think it brings clarity for everybody, including myself, and we get down to work to try and make a good go of the rest of the season, because that's what our target is.
You mentioned Tyreek Wright. Just what is the full prognosis with him at the moment?
Yeah, he's not been out. He's been on the grass with the medical team. He's not actually been training with us, so he won't be part of the squad at the weekend. It's pretty much due to the timeline we thought at the start. So we knew it wasn't a significant injury of any long-term risk, but more than enough just to keep him out of the next couple of weeks from when he did it. So he's on schedule to return when we expected him to return, and just fingers crossed that continues, because we brought him here to obviously improve our firepower and our ammunition, and we've only had him for 60 minutes, unfortunately.
And how is Jake Young? I know you said that at half time he'd reported maybe a tight hamstring.
Yeah, it's not that really. He's got just before he came off, he obviously was involved in a challenge and hurt his ankle, so he's actually missed training this week so far with that ankle. Nothing to do with his hamstring, which is good news. But just he took a knock on it. It's swelled up, so we're just trying to get that swelling down and hopefully include him in training later in the week. So yeah, that's it's less of a risk, I think, than a hamstring, because he's an explosive player. But also there's a good level of discomfort after the game on Saturday. So unfortunately, he's not been part of the training week so far either.
Other than the longer-term absentees that we know about in Jamie Walker and Alex Patterson, how are you elsewhere in the squad going into Saturday?
Yeah, I think we have, for look, we have everyone else available apart from the ones that haven't. So obviously Jake and Tyreek and Alex Batson, Jamie Walker. We know about those, and they're all in a certain part of the pitch where we need as much quality as we can. So it's probably hitting us hard a little bit at the moment, but I still believe that the players we have available have more than enough to score goals in League Two. So we'll focus on the guys that are out there training, preparing for the game, and get them in the best physical, mental shape as we can. But look, every team, if you look at those 4 players in particular, I think any team at this level would miss those 4 without a shadow of a doubt. But like I say, I still believe in the rest of the group.
And you lead me on to my next question, really. Obviously, you spoke about the fact that you put Andy on the bench after the game with us. And look, he's top scorer this season still. I think sometimes people forget that. He has got over 10 goals this campaign. But how do you get Andy Cook to the best Andy Cook like he was that we saw last season?
Well, I think obviously I wasn't up close and personal with Cookie last year, so I couldn't tell you about various aspects of him personally at that stage. But I do know like his XG is the same this season, so he's had the same opportunities, the same chances, the same amount of chances he had at this stage last season. I know I wouldn't say he came good, he was almost red hot after January, after he had a little break from the team, and came back with maybe a point to prove, maybe a little bit refreshed physically, and sort of ripped up the division really with his goals. But that wasn't part of my thinking really. I go off what I see and what I feel, and I just felt he wasn't at the same sort of level as he was pre-Christmas, and I just want to get him back to that really. And if it means him missing 1 or 2 or 3 games to get back to that level, I'd rather have him at the highest level for less games than sort of plateauing out in an average fashion for a lot more games. I'd rather have the best quality Andy Cook. But I am still learning about a lot of the players, in the team, out the team. When we go through a spell of a lot of games, a lot of minutes, the conditions that we train under with the weather and everything, all these things can affect a player's sort of condition and his output. So we're just trying to get a freshness in everybody. So it's not just Cookie that we're looking to do that with. I think there's a few players that we're trying to do that with. But, look, Cookie's record at this level and his importance for us as a team is not diminished. I wouldn't do that. I still know he's a very valuable player for us. And so the discussions we had last Friday and then how he's come in training this week, I know he looks refreshed in his own mindset, almost like when you're left out of the team, sometimes that's the weight off your shoulder. Sometimes you might be looking over your shoulder a bit, and then when it actually happens, it's just like, right, let's crack on, and it's a fresh start. And I'm hoping that's the effect it has with Cookie, but he's still got a massive part to play for us, no, without a doubt.
And I suppose, Graham, that perspective is furthered somewhat by the fact that in the window, Jake Young's been recalled, Tyreek Wright's come in, Callum Cavanagh's come in. That forward line has been bolstered and therefore healthy competition at play. Yeah,
that's what we want to do. We want, I think if you look over maybe the last season and a half, I think there's been a strong reliance on Andy Cook to score the goals for the team. I don't think that's a healthy situation for any team, whether it's a midfielder or a striker or whatever. I think it's a team sport, team game, and I want us to become a team that has many threats, has different problems for the opposition to solve, and not just one very strong problem in Andy Cook. So we've tried to look. We assessed the squad in the period we had going up to January. We looked at the things that we're doing really well. We looked at where we need to improve, and our output of goals is the one outstanding thing we have to improve. So we have to try and improve the players we already have, and then we have to try and improve the squad with recruitment. The two main factors. So we brought in 3 new players, and I do count Jake as a young player, as a new player for me. 3 new players to bolster that, but also the responsibility on us to try and improve the guys that we already have. So if we do that and get them all to the best level they can be physically and mentally, then I think we've got a really strong forward line. But they're all at different stages of those aspects, and it might take a little bit of time to get them all up to speed. Cav's only just come in. He's had a week. He's not played any senior first team football this season. Jake's been off with an injury for 3-4 weeks leading up to this stage. Tyree, we've had he's played 6 games in a year, and then he's been injured. So it'd be great when all these guys are fully fit and functioning and flying, I think. But we have to do our best to win games when we haven't got them.
Just looking at the remainder of the season more generally, and we've spoken about this recently as well, how your ambition is to really just focus on the next game in front of you and not try and get tied up in what is remaining this season. Yeah. But how easy or difficult is that when we start getting into the kind of final stages of the season, maybe more from a squad perspective, because players will look at the table, players will look at games remaining and stuff. So how do you kind of control that the focus is on Wrexham away on Saturday?
I think that's relatively easy from inside, from our messaging, our communication. But they're obviously open and exposed to a lot more information than just what they receive inside our building. That's a reality of modern day football. Back when I was a player, it was maybe the odd newspaper report, how the fans would sort of respond at the end of the game. That was pretty much it. And then most of the information or communication you got was from your coaching staff and your teammates, where it's a lot more open now. So it's trying to balance out what we know they'll be exposed to outside of us, but us focusing, one that come in here in the building, that they focus on what's important. And you can't win 10, 11, 12 games on the bounce in one go. You can only win one at a time. So why focus on anything else apart from the next game? I think it's a reasonably common sense formula. You can't win the game after this one until you get to it. So let's just fully focus on the one in front of us and give it our best shot. Plan right, prepare right, and then fully commit to what we want to do and believe in ourselves. And I still look at the players, and I still hear the players, and I still feel the players, and I still think there's a belief there that we can do something positive this season. So, but I don't want to put the pressure on the group of players about where the end what the end looks like. Come on, let's focus on this game in particular. Can we bring our A game? Can we get to the levels that we expect of ourselves, that we produce in training and so forth, and then maintain it over 95 minutes to win a game of football? That's if players do that and they have the mind control, the discipline within themselves to do that, they'll be in a lot better position to go and win games. If you get distracted about bigger pictures, what's going on elsewhere, what's going on in the summer, can we do this over 16, 17 games, this, that, the other, you're just doing yourself a disservice and not focusing on what you need to do. So we're quite clear with the players about that, and to be fair, I do believe we have a good group to work with on that side of it.
Yeah, and just finally to, I suppose, further that point as well, we spoke with Kevin McDonald before yourself, and obviously we've asked him about transitioning back from caretaker manager into player and whatnot, and also the season that still lies ahead, and he spoke about the fact that there is still a very clear attitude and ambition within the squad that this season can be successful outside of the EFL trophy. How encouraging is that to have such an experienced player who at one point was the leader of this group, making that message quite clear? Yeah,
I think that's the importance of respected players, senior players that have been around the game, still having that belief, still seeing that belief from the staff, understanding that Kev's probably got a little bit of history, because I played with Kev 10, 12 years ago, so he's got probably a bit of more of an insight into my character and my personality. I think me with him as well. I think I understand where he is in his career because I've been there myself. So, you don't want to just let things drift away. You want to fight for everything that you have an opportunity to win. So that's it's great that Kev, we knew with Kev when we came in that he wasn't in a condition to play because of the role he took up for the month or so, and then he suffered a little niggle when he did get up to training. And then we just bided our time with him, tried to build up his exposure to fitness stuff in training, because we haven't been able to play bounce games, friendly games behind the scenes. So, but that I think he's an honest guy, Kev. I don't think he's going to say things for saying sake. I think he's going to say how it is, and that's the feeling I get from the players. I don't listen. There's a high level of disappointment if we don't win a game of football. We don't play well enough to do that, and I'd be disturbed if that wasn't the case. But certainly when we get back to work on the following Monday or the following Thursday or whenever it is, there's a determination about the group to then go and put it right and go and make sure the next game is the next opportunity. And I think it's important that Kev, Richie, people like those guys, Gilly, all these lads that have got good experience, just keep nudging the others along. Lads that might be a little bit doubtful, a little bit naive to, a little bit dramatic in their thinking about, all he's lost, this, that, the other, or we've made it now. That swing of emotion. I think it's important to have good characters in the changing room that will keep that balance between getting too low, getting too high, and just making sure that we focus on what we've got right in front of us. So it's good to hear that Kev believes that.
I know I said finally, but actually this is my final question now, because you mentioned a player there that I meant to ask you about last week. I noticed that in the absence of Richie for the EFL Trophy game, Alex Gilead wore the captain's armband. How easy a decision was that? You mentioned him there as one of the leaders of this group. What influence does he have?
Well, when I spoke to him the day before the game, pulled him in the office just to chat about a few things, and then I just asked him if he wanted to be captain, and big beaming smile came on his face, excitement about it. I thought, well, that's my answer. So Gilly epitomises everything I want in a professional footballer and a team. I think he's a really talented guy, super fit, super motivated, great professional, at it every single day. He hits the level of consistency that we need our team to. And that's why I wanted to give him the armband, because I felt people need to look at your captain and go, yeah, that's what our team needs to look like. I think Richie does a fantastic job on that side of it as well. So I'm not looking to change anything or anything like that. But Richie obviously wasn't available, because Richie does the same thing in training, and every day he's out there competing at a really, really hard level. But I thought Gilly was the natural sort of replacement for him in that game, and I thought he went out there and just played his normal game and set the standard, I thought. So he's a guy that I've got a lot of respect for.
That was my final question. Thanks, Graham.
Cheers. Can't hear you, mate. Simon's on there.
I'll unmute.
There we go.
I knew I'd do it sooner or later. Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, the game ahead, looking ahead this weekend, we sort of touched on it the other day. Wrexham on this crazy home record. I mean, we talk about Bradford City, the need to get that home record right, and how important it can be. I mean, was it one defeat in the 50-odd games? I mean, when you go into that sort of game, is mentality, have you got to have that belief that we can be the team that topples that this time?
The belief has to come from us and what we need to produce in the game. It takes time to instill it in a team and in a group of players. I think sometimes, depending on the environment you go into, whether they're used to winning or whether they're not used to winning this or either. But for me, we have to believe that whoever we play, we have an opportunity to win. And my reference point is my career. I never went into a game thinking there wasn't a chance of winning. Never in 24 years. It's impossible to believe a thing like that. It's impossible. We know the difficulty of all the tasks that we face, and if you look at the record, then what's the point in turning up? If you don't believe that you can do something, it's not about taking the previous record. It's taking what they have to show in that particular game and what we have to show in that particular game, and it's always 11v. Well, it starts off 11v11, every game, and I just want us to have the confidence in ourselves. Listen, we know what we do well. We know what we have to improve. It's really clear for everyone that there's no point hiding away from that fact. But when we get those things right, then we're a really good team, and we've shown that in a great spell leading up to Christmas. We showed it even after that, even though we didn't get the wins, but in our performances we were really strong, and we could be that team again. But listen, Wrexham are a fantastic team, and they've had an unbelievable 2.5 years of winning consistently, certainly at their home ground. But it takes time to build that up, and that's ultimately our aim here, is to build up that sort of that environment at home, that culture of where it's hard for a team to come and take anything from. We're not there. We know that. I'm not going to try even attempt to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. But the work has to start somewhere, and this is where it's starting for us. But no, I've got full confidence in my team. If we get to a level that we know we can do, not hope to do, but know we can do, then we give ourselves a chance of beating anybody at this level. And that's not taking anything away from Wrexham. It'd be ridiculous to take anything away from Wrexham's home form, because it's pretty phenomenal.
And obviously, you're the only man who's actually toppled that in all this time. I mean, looking back on that game, how do you go about sort of beating them? Because obviously, they do score goals for fun. I think they average 3 goals a game at home. So you're going to have to face quite an avalanche at times. Yeah,
that's it. It was my team that beat them. It wasn't me on the day. It was my team. It was the 11 players that went out there, and the 3 or 4 that came on as subs and stuff like that. But we went there with a belief that we could get a result. It was our first game of the season. If I'm talking about that result in particular, we hadn't won any of our pre-season games. There was nothing expected of us. We went there and we attacked them as I'd set up my teams to do on all occasions. So, I think is the team I have in my charge capable of a performance like that now? 100%. But we have to do a lot of things right, and so that was it. I didn't look at Wrexham's record from the season before when I went into that game on the first day of this season. And they were unbeaten at home last season, weren't they? So in the league anyway. So it didn't make any difference to me how I planned my team, how I spoke to my team about taking the game to them, and it won't make any difference this time either. That's not me being flippant or anything like that. It's how I approach football. It's to go and try and win, to go and show what we're capable of, show what we are as individuals and as a group together. And sometimes it gets you a result, sometimes it doesn't. But as long as you show that unity and that belief and that commitment to a game, then that's the minimum requirement of a successful team over a period of time, over a course of a season. You can't go from performance levels up and down and win, lose, draw, and expect to be successful at the end of the season. But the first thing about consistency is your mindset, your approach to the game, the commitment. The levels of quality and performance can sometimes change or end product, but certainly your mindset and your preparation and how you approach game have to be the same. And that's what we'll be what we've been trying to do this week.
And in terms of, obviously, if you do go there, put in the performance and do get the result, it could be a real sort of springboard performance, a springboard sort of occasion, couldn't it? Because it will, really build that belief up within the group again.
Yeah, but the like we were talking about before, the belief isn't that dented. It isn't that. Listen, we're frustrated more than anything. We're not lacking in belief. We're not lacking in a determination. We're just frustrated because we know we have players capable of scoring goals. We know the opportunities we've created in lots of the games, not necessarily the last game, but certainly in previous games over the new year, in the start of January, were games that we should have won quite comfortably, and we know that. So there's a frustration there more than anything. But the only way we can get this frustration out of our system is by going and putting on performance and winning the game. The springboard effect not what I'm really looking for now. I'm just looking for an improvement from our players in our final product, our end touch, our end bit of quality, without losing anything of the other stuff that we've been doing so well.
Is that, sort of obviously the goal scoring, as you say, has been the issue. I mean, is that something, it sounds a bit flippant to say you just keep practicing it at training, or is it a case of just having the confidence of the players to perhaps not go overboard and keep saying we need to score, and just sort of let them get it right themselves, sort of thing?
Yeah, well, there's a balance, because I want to be honest in my appraisal after games, or with you guys, with the supporters, with my players. So we give them what we've been doing well, the players I'm talking about here, the squad, and then we just say, look, we just need to improve this. This is because it just focuses the mind on that, and I don't want it to become a big issue. But I have to, if I'm asked a question by you guys or by supporters, I want to be honest, and so I'm honest. But sometimes I'm highlighting a fact that will be scrutinised then even more, highlighted even more. But listen, if you want to play professional football, if you want to play for Bradford City, then pressure is something you're going to have to handle. That's normal, So I think if you can sort of respond to that pressure, sort of engage with it and sort of see it as a positive, that you're in a position that the pressure's on you. That's because people expect you. I think it's a better place to be rather than, well, we don't really think they'll score. What's the point? I think if they expect you, that means they must look at you and think you're a decent player or a decent team. So I think it's how you sort of control those thoughts, those messages, the information, the feeling. It's how you control it and push it into a positive. That's loads of things come across you in life and football that are testing you. And if you think with a negative mind, then you'll have a negative outcome. If you think there's an issue and you can then go, right, let's find the solution for this issue. Let's put in the practice to get the solution. Let's train and practice and persevere. Then it will come good. It will come good. But if you do this, forget about it.
Cheers, Graham. Best of luck the weekend.
Okay. Thank you.
I agree. I agree. I've just got a few, mate. I was just wondering, this time of year, is that when you really find out about what you've got in the building? I mean, you want a little bit of an indifferent role, and some players start to think about their own future, and sometimes training is disrupted, and there's a lot of excuses. This is probably the time when you really find out what you've got, characters as well as players.
Yeah, I think you're always learning from a lot of times or periods during the season. It's great to have a team at the end of one season, giving them the off-season programme, see who sticks to it, see who comes back in. Then you learn about who's got the discipline to do the right things away. Then the pre-season, when you challenge them, who's got the discipline or the mentality to get up to the levels and push themselves through things. The game time, who can take their training to games. When there's games thick and fast, it's all the way through the season you learn about characters, personalities, individuals. You never stop learning. But so every challenging time, whether even when you're winning a lot, when we're winning 5-6 games on the bounce, we're looking at individuals, right? See who's just coming off, see who's getting complacent, see who thinks we've done something, and then on the other side, if you're not winning. See who's going under, see who's still putting himself out there to be picked, to be. So there's always testing times in that. So we're always on the lookout for that. We're always on the lookout for who we need to help, who we need to support, who we need to spike, who we think crack on. Great, that's what Gilly. That's why we give him the armband. I just think consistency in everything he does. And that's what we want. So it's you always, after a period of time, look back and go, right, I've got a clearer picture of him, I know what that is. And that's how you try to manage the long term and then focus on the individuals you need to try and help.
Yeah, I think it was Michael Duffy said something he said last season at Barnsley that sort of stuck with me, and I thought it might apply to lower divisions. He sort of said there's 6 games in every league season where you're brilliant, there's 6 games in every season where you're really poor. It's about coming out on the right side of the other ones. That's the trick, really. Is that something you'd sort of agree with yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I think I said something similar at the start of this season, previous club, that to win a promotion to be at the top end, you're not going to play well 46 games. So you're going to play well. I know half of those games you need to take the majority of points, but you need to learn how to win when you don't play so well. And then the games where it's reasonably level, have you got the quality to find those game-defining moments? But certainly you have to be able to win in all those periods when you're on top, when it's nip and tuck, and even when you're struggling. How can you stay in a game, go against the ropes, take the hits, come out with a knockout punch? So but without having that consistency of how you approach a game, how you approach your training, you're going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. So that's why off seasons, pre-seasons are so important in the preparation going into a season, to put those things in place when you haven't got the games that can drag you from one side to another. But that's the things that you can improve as you go through a season. And there'll be games this season that the team has won when we haven't been the top team. I wouldn't actually say that's been our case since then. I think we've not took advantage of the games when we've been on top. All the data and information tells us that. But listen, we're big boys. We know what the game's about.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, Fran, I mean, without going into specifics with your itinerary, but you look at it, I think you've got 7 out of 9, haven't you, at home? You haven't got away trips all over the place. There's a chance to build momentum, isn't there? I think that's probably fair to say if you get things right.
Yeah, well, if we get things right, that's the golden sort of issue. So I don't look at home and away, because look, at the end of the day, I look back over Bradford's home record over 5 seasons. I think it's the team's or the club has won probably more away games than home games in those over that whole time. So there's a thing that we have to try and fix, because we want to be successful. So you have to be successful at home if you want to do that. But we don't say we have to do this at home and do that away. We see every game as an opportunity to win and play in the way we want to play. So we don't go and sit in front of our own goal away from home trying to nick a counter-attack goal and win 1-0 and then open up at home. We try to have a consistent way of playing. So for me, home away is still an opportunity to win a game of football. So I don't try to emphasise the difference, but without a shadow of a doubt, we have to win more home games as a club, and it's that's bit, I would say, maybe another issue this season. So we have to, and certainly even in my time, without a shadow of a doubt. So I think we've drawn the majority of them, and that's something we have to come to terms with at Valley Parade, that regardless of where we are in the division, every team sees a point at Valley Parade as a good point. Even when we are in the league at the moment, 18th, Wimbledon went away thinking that was a good point, and they're a team that's got on the verge of the playoffs. So I think that's something we have to be even better to overcome.
Yeah. Thanks, Graham. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Okay, pal.
Hi, Graham. Graham, I just wanted to talk about what has been a breath of fresh air for you. I know the league is the bread and butter, but the Football League trophy has given you the sense of a bit of confidence so far, taking down teams from higher divisions like Derby County who are going well and stuff like that. Has that been a sense of freedom for the players, that sort of competition, in terms of the stress maybe of the league, in terms of that the players have maybe relaxed and maybe the pressure has been off, so they've played a bit more like themselves?
Well, in my time, a little bit, I would say that if we kept the same team in the cup games, but we haven't. We've made a lot of changes in all the cup games. So I think maybe the players that have come into the team have seen it as an opportunity to to go, can I play well enough to stay in the team for next week and this, that, the other. And there's been maybe an outpouring of enthusiasm to finally be on the pitch. I don't know. Certainly has a different feel. I think when you go into play, Derby County at their stadium, that's not an everyday League Two stadium. So I think you're always going to get a boost in sort of enthusiasm going into that game. But then we've won our home games as well in that competition. But we have made 6, 7, 8 changes in all those cup games, and we've seen a real spark in obviously the results, without a shadow of a doubt. But I couldn't tell you whether the players feel less pressure in that, because we plan and prepare exactly the same for those games. We don't highlight one competition and just mosey on in the other one. We prepare for every single game in the same way, but the personnel has certainly been different in those games, so maybe there's a little bit in that.
I suppose, Graham, squads, as we know, every club has their injury crisis and injury problems, and squads are stretched this time of year. Even though clubs might have had the resource to invest in January, some might have, some mightn't have. But in terms of keeping that battle room in the midfield and keeping that fresh, you have two warriors in there with a fine age of 68 years old in terms of Richard and Kevin, in terms of that battleground, and trying to keep that sort of fresh and energy and keep those guys at a high level. Is that sort of to try and pair them together when you can, and maybe then not have them constantly in that battleground in terms of, or how do you keep two guys with a combined age of 68 fresh for long periods?
Well, I think I was one of those old fogies you're discussing there when I was playing back in the day, and I think if you've got a love of football and an enthusiasm for football, then it doesn't matter. And I think if you train right, prepare right, do the right things professionally, then it doesn't matter about your age. I've seen overweight, lazy 22-year-olds, and you know what I mean, and 37, 38-year-olds absolutely scrapping for every day and loving football and stuff like this, and vice versa. Age doesn't make a difference to me. I think it's about the character, the personality, the professionalism of a player. These are guys that are vastly experienced. They know how to play the game. I think when I came in, we were looking at the squad, and we had probably 6 central midfield players if we counted Manny Hossa-Davy, Alex Patterson, Jamie Walker, and the 3 we have right now. Obviously, we let Manny go in January, but we lost those 2 guys in quick succession. Well, in the same game. Unfortunately, and Jamie still hasn't returned, even though we thought he would have by this stage. So we're a little bit maybe light in numbers there, but certainly not light in quality and performance level. So I think the sort of competition, the sort of level of performance that Gilead, Smallwood and McDonald bring is very important for the team. So we can play with 2 midfielders, we can play with 3 midfield players. But these are guys that know how to prepare themselves for training and for games. So, got no concerns that their age is anything but a number.
And second last question for me, I'm just going to touch on 2 Irish guys. Kieran Kelly and Lewis Richards has obviously played, represented Ireland at underage level. Where do those guys need to probably develop their own games, maybe to enhance themselves and maybe take themselves to the next level? Where are those areas for personal improvement in their game, do you think?
I think to get to the next level, you have to produce a consistency and a high consistency at the level you're at currently, which they are both doing. Lewis, unfortunately, both lads weren't in the team when we got here. They hadn't played a lot of football, but we saw their qualities, their attributes, and we wanted them in the team. We got them in the team. They were very good. Lewis unfortunately picked up an injury which meant he missed a month. So I would say Lewis's condition, as in match exposure, needs to improve to give him that ability to play at he's an explosive. They're both explosive athletes, but with that you have to have a real good base level of fitness to then produce that explosive power game in, game out. They're both really, really strong athletes, but to do that for 50 games, neither of them been exposed to that in English football yet. So we can only expose them to it, see how they maintain it. But certainly with their attributes in the game, I've spoke to both of them at length. They have everything to play at a higher level, without a shadow of a doubt. But there's a lot that you have to put in place to get those opportunities to go higher and then actually stay there. There's loads of lads that clubs will gamble on and give an opportunity to, but staying there for 10, 15 years is another level. So we're trying to help them put the things in place now that will help them get there, hopefully with Bradford City first, if not through getting moved, and then stay there once they get there.
And I suppose final question for me, Graham. I know every manager says it. We don't look at the table and we take it one game at a time in terms of that. But I suppose we're 30 games into the season now, and I suppose there's still maybe out of that, there's still half of that 30 still to play for. But when you say get on to where you are in a position now, you can either start to push on, you can make a run to try and get into the playoffs, or you can just maybe start to try and position yourself away from that relegation, or obviously the dread to get dragged into it. But when you come to sort of 38 games in, like 7 more games, is there a fair sort of indication that, right, if we're not in the top 12 by after 38 games, it's consistency, it's middle of the table, hope that we're not going to this up to intanting? Or when does that sort of season sort of begin to realise where we're going to be at? Is there a certain point of the season, is around the 38 mark, is it?
It's not about the games, it's not about the position, it's about the points tally. So we are, I think if I'm correct, 7 points from the playoffs. So if we were 10th and 7 points off the playoffs, I think everyone would be going, woof, we've got a right chance. But we're not, but we are 7 points. If I go back to when I took over at Scunthorpe, we had 9 games left and they were 13th in the table. We won 7 of those games and we missed out on the playoffs by goal difference. No one gave us a hope of doing that, and we just turned it on. So if it's mathematically possible, I will sweat blood, and so will my team, to make things happen, without a shadow of doubt. So it only becomes a potential change of focus when mathematically it is impossible. While it's possible, it's not in my nature. I don't want it to be in my team's nature to give anything up. And that's not us looking ahead and promising people we can do something. There's lots of things in life that if you talk about way in advance, people think you're crazy. But crazy things happen sometimes, and we've got to believe in that we have the attributes to do that. We've shown it in spells, but we have to maintain it over a longer period to be able to do anything successful in the league this season. So maybe ask that question when we've played 38 games.